Hey you guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and for those who have been here already, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit something different. I as a person believe that transparency is key, and I also believe that sometimes we should take the time to retrospect and see how far we've come. And for those who don't know me, I am your girl Danny Royal from DannyRoyal.com, and let's get into it today. So for those who don't know, I am a mom of 6, and before now I was a mom of 5, and before that I was a mom of 4, and so forth and so on. But I had 4 boys, and then my daughters came afterwards, and I actually, was in a relationship on and off with my oldest daughter's dad. And being in that relationship, in the beginning, it was, feeling, I was at a completely different place that I am right now. Like, when I say who I am today is totally different from the person that I was back then, and I say that in the most positive way. When I was in that relationship with my daughter's dad, it showed me how much dependent I was on my mom, and it showed me how much, even though we had the opportunity to do some of the things that we wanted to, it showed me how much I was literally what do you call it? What's the word? Sheltered. It showed me how much I was sheltered or coddled or loved too. And sometimes being sheltered can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be a bad thing. And it's not that I did not have opportunities to do things, no, because I was a teen mom, but I still was cultivated in a different way. I am one of 4, and being one of 4, it has its upsides and its downsides. But from experiencing seeing my sister and my brothers go through certain things, I was like, I'm not finna go through that, and so being in that relationship showed me how much I was like, it's okay, Danny, is everything all right? And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but sometimes in those instances, people feel like you cannot fend for yourself, or you're super delicate, or you're super green to so many things, and it just can be up and down. When you're trying to grow up and be an adult, it can be like, for those who know what I'm talking about, you understand. For those who don't, it could be a nuisance, it could be irritating, it could be frustrating, it could be many different things. And being in the relationship that I was in, I was going through a divorce and had been separated for quite some time, but it seemed like the divorce was never gonna happen. And I was just like up and down on like going through with it, not because I didn't want it, but because it just was frustrating. And so, that was one phase of my life, being married and then divorced, and then, being in a relationship with my daughter's dad, my oldest daughter's dad, and it was what it was. Like, it was beautiful when it was beautiful, but when it wasn't, it wasn't. And it was just like in and out and up and down and round and all of these different things. And you guys are also, sorry if you guys hear like cars running past or whatever. I'm sitting in my room just chilling. But yeah, I was in that relationship, and it taught me so much. And I promise you that where I'm going is gonna all come together as I continue to go forward, and it's gonna all make sense, basically. And so I was younger. I got married when I was 18. So it was some things that I knew, and there was some things that I didn't know. It was some things that I was growing into, and it just, I was at a totally different place. And just seeing that and looking back from now all the way to that time, it just made me realize how far I've come. And that's ultimately what this video is about. But I wanted to share something with you guys that I'm not trying to make you guys be all mushy inside and stuff, but I really want you guys to be at a place where you literally do an overview. Oftentimes we do overviews, like around the new year, but you can never put a timestamp on when you can just sit down and retrospect, when you sit down and see how far you've come, when you sit down and look how many storms you've weathered, when you sit down and look how much you've achieved. And so in this moment of talking to you guys, I'm so grateful for the ability to be able to communicate this to you guys, because about a couple of years ago, I was in a shelter, and my daughter's dads and my relationship played an intricate role in that, simply because we lived together, and when we lived together, it was like in and out, in and out, in and out. I got put out of his home on multiple occasions, multiple different times, and it was so much instability there. And ultimately, not just that, it was me going through the thing of, people believing and that we were in such an amazing place, but behind closed doors, it was just like, what? It was like they've had the ability to grow, past their point, or grow from where they were, but I was still in my growing stages. And honestly, if you want to be frank, we're always growing, we're ever evolving. And when you feel like you've arrived, that's when you've lost, ultimately. And so he never could appreciate or respect my process, and we had the same issues on a constant, like literally on a constant. And it became toxic. It became toxic. And I can recall a time where I had went out, we were living together, I had went out with someone, and I had went out with one of my friends, not like a gentleman. I had went out with one of my friends, and this is just one of many stories that I could share with you guys. And literally, I just did my own thing, because I didn't know where I stood in the relationship. And when you are in a relationship, situationship, entanglement, whatever you want to call it, and you don't know exactly where you stand, or a person constantly lets you know, well, I'm not sure if I want to be in this anyway, or I'm not sure what, or whatever the case might be, you take their words for face value. You take those things for what it is. And I can honestly say that, even with living with him, I started, just connecting with people just in case, because there was no security there. And in that, it just was like a sense of control in a way, and the person wanted me to do things according to how they wanted me to do things. I can even go as far as expressing to you guys that even after the in and out, I clearly at that point, did not see my value, or did not see my worth. I said that I did. I talked about it, but, just the want to constantly be in that and keep going back and forth and back and forth. It was so much. And one of the things that I can honestly say that I gravitated to from him was the fact that he stepped in as a male figure for my sons when their dad wasn't present, and when he did not want to do, and when he did not want to be around, due to things not working out between us, or due to him just doing what he wanted to, or due to maybe him even wanting to hurt me, and not realizing that they were being affected ultimately. And so I literally can say that I grew so much from being in that situation, and so much from being in that relationship. Oh my gosh, like I've grown tremendously, and I still have so much growing to do. But like when I sit back and think about it, I just can recall the last time, like he was just like, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, and I'm just like, okay, I had just had our daughter, and I'm like, man, that was a hard pill to swallow. But that was in his right. He could say, hey, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore, and I don't want you here. And so he proceeded to say, hey, I'm gonna take your stuff to your dad's house. And I was like, no, you can take my stuff to my dad's house, but I'm just not gonna be there. And so I could recall myself going through a time even with my dad at one point, because for a portion of my pregnancy with my oldest daughter, I lived there with my dad, and I can just recall us clashing on many different levels. It did not work out between us. It was just not. And as much as I love him, and as much as I loved him even in those moments, being a mom with responsibility to the magnitude in which I had, and then carrying another child, I was like, no, I don't want to do that, God. And so I ended up looking into shelters. I ended up looking into shelters, and I can recall, looking into shelters. And when I was looking into shelters, I'm like, I got to get out of here. I just knew, I was like, I got to get out of here. I don't want to be tied to anyone. I don't want anybody in my business. I just want to be able to do this, take my children to where we need to go. I did not want to be a burden to anybody. I just didn't want all of the other friction, because I had already been back and forth. And then you can imagine people being involved, or people getting wind of, oh, he put you out this time, or oh, just let your imagination run. And so you can just imagine family being involved to the extent in which they were willing to, or to the extent in which you wanted them to be for those moments and times. And then so I asked him, I said, hey, when do you want me out by? Do I have a deadline? Is it and so he basically was like, you have until Friday. And so I said, okay. Like, you guys, I was so on it to the point where I literally was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And so I did. And I got on the phone, I talked to you, and I called those people. I was calling shelters. I was trying to figure out. I had never been in a shelter prior to this moment. Never, ever. And so I decided to do that. And when I decided to, do that, I was like, okay, Monday I was on it. And I was making my phone calls, and I got 2 people who actually responded to me. And I knew that I had a few things that I had to take care of. And I was just like, man, my kids get out of school at this time. Most shelters, for those who don't know, they have a curfew. They want to make sure and ensure that you're in by a certain time with you and your children, because they want to make sure that, you're not like trying to duck us out because there's somebody else who might be in a worse position than you that may need the space. And so I had made known to one of the ladies. She was like, okay, we're going to hold a room for you. And this was on a Monday. No, this was on a Tuesday. And she was like, we're going to hold a room for you, or whatever the case might be. I'm like, all right, cool. And I told her, I said, is there any way that you can hold it? Because I have clients. I was still doing hair and everything at the time. And I said, I have to service my clients. And oftentimes my appointments come after Sorry, you guys. Most of the time, my appointments come after, after my kids get out of school. And so she just was like, okay, I can do this, we can hold it. And so there were shifts. So, I'm just like, okay. And I can recall, so she said that she would hold the room. She said taking my clients was fine. After that, we would have to adjust to the time based off of the shelter. And I was like, no problem. The lady was really, really patient and really, really kind. And she was a lady from the evening shift. So I ended up sitting on the bed. This was Wednesday. So I knew that I had somewhere to go. I'm like, all right, I'm getting everything in motion. All right, cool. So I literally sat down on the bed. I literally can recall me sitting down on the bed. He was on the roof for whatever reason. I can't recall why. And he was looking back at me, waving. And I'm looking at them like it's crazy. And so in my mind, I could only imagine, you could only imagine the frustration. But in that moment, I still had a sense of peace because God granted it to me. And I heard him say, you guys, you can't tell me that I don't hear from y'all. I literally heard him say, you're going to be moving into your house in 3 months. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I just knew that in 3 months from here, I would be in my own place and I would never have to look back at this situation again. So here comes Wednesday. Here comes Tuesday. Here comes Tuesday. Here comes Wednesday. Here comes Thursday. Friday comes. And I'm supposed to move into the shelter that I had talked to the lady about. And I confirmed. And unfortunately, the lady from nighttime did not let the lady know in the morning what was going on and what we had talked about. So that meant I was out of a room. I didn't have anywhere to go. That morning, before 12, because I was supposed to move in, I couldn't. I went up to the place and everything. So I asked her, I said, hey, ma'am, do you know of any other places I could go? Because I can't, this is just crazy. And so, y'all, I promise it's all gonna make sense. So I ended up calling a couple of places she gave to me. I was on my way to the courthouse because I had to get some information. And, I just was trying to get stuff in order and perspective, whatever. And so I was trying to get everything that I needed to get done before school. And I had just had Hannah, and I was just about to go to the courthouse. But before I went into the courthouse, Hannah started crying, and I got in the backseat of the car, and I began to nurse her. And while I was nursing her, I was sitting down, and my phone rings. And when the phone rings, it's like, hey, Miss Mitchell, so-and-so, such and such. This is Mr. Arve from Sarah's Hope, so-and-so, such and such. Are you still looking for? And I'm like, yes, I am. She basically said, well, we have a room for you and your children. She said, we have space. We just moved the family out. And I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, God, you are so strategic. And he strategically mapped it all out, strategically planned it all out for me, you guys. And in that moment, I was so grateful. I was so grateful. Have a seat. I was so grateful because I knew that I needed somewhere to go. And I knew that I did not want to stay where I was. And I knew that I was not going to a family member's house because my dad's. I didn't want to do that. And so I literally said, and I just was like, God, I thank you. She said, well, when can you come? Because we can, register you in and everything. And I was like, I can come as soon as possible. Like, I can come right now. Forget the courthouse. I was like, I'll be there right now. So I went there right then. And I said, all right, God. I said, I trust you. Moved all of my stuff out. Had everything squared away. Literally, when I was there, filling out that paperwork, application, registering everybody inside. Like, her dad was calling my phone. And when Hannah's dad was calling my phone, I'm just like, okay, I'm like, why is this person calling? But he's like blowing my phone up. And it's Friday, and I know I gotta go, and I'm trying to figure out like what it is that he wants. Keys been returned and all that jazz. So I'm like, hey, I didn't answer at the time because I wanted to finish everything I was doing. Fast forward, when I got finished registering everybody into everything and doing everything, it was time for me to get kids. So around the time, and then I had a client later on that evening because I had to cut his hair. So I ended up rescheduling a client. I ended up literally, what did I do? I ended up rescheduling the client, but then I had to go get my things from her dad's house. And so from getting my things from her dad's house, it was like, okay, like I gotta get this stuff now, like, because I gotta go, all that jazz. And I just was like, okay, we can't do this. And so we came up with a time that was agreed. Of course, I was moving on their time. They stated to me, like, I know you see me calling, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't owe you anything at this point. Like, we're done, at this point. You put us out. You said that you wanted us to go. And I even went as far as, expressing to him, like, hey, well, let's keep our daughter here with you. Because I don't want to give her that experience of being in the shelter. And he was like, no, she's going with you. And I just was like, okay. He was like, she's nursing. And I said, okay, well, today will be the day that she starts milking. I can always get her from you. And then, I can pick her up and nurse her. Or I can just send over breast milk or whatever the case might be. Just for the sake of her not having that experience. That was not his take on things. He did not want that. I don't know what was going through his heart and mind at the time, but I know we weren't on the same page. And I said, okay, cool, that's fine. Not a problem. So I proceeded to go get my things later on that evening. He called my phone a couple of times that evening because we were supposed to meet so I can get my things. He ended up having something to do, which went into the time that we were supposed to be meeting up. So I had to wait for him because I no longer had a key. So I ended up taking my sons to the park and my daughter. And so I just believe in, just not allowing children to feel the brunt of what's going on. I mean, it's already going to be a big shift, a huge shift, or it already was a huge shift, considering the fact that, we were in the situation at hand alone. And so literally, at some point, they were calling me. I didn't answer right away because we had went for a walk. And I just so happened to run into somebody that I knew. And somehow, I guess one of my sons answered the phone. They were younger, much younger. And he ended up driving. And when he drove to the space, what happened was, he just kind of got real indignant in a sense, like, oh, you down here with some guy and and this is that and the third. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? I was like at a loss for words because I was trying to figure out what he was talking about because I had ran into somebody that I used to train with, but then I had ultimately went down there just for a walk. And so mind you, I was supposed to get my stuff that evening. So he ended up basically coming up to the park, followed me. Came up there randomly. He could have just met me at the house, but he decided to follow me, come up here because I wasn't answering. So in light of that, we ended up getting in the car, talking, we exchanged words. I ended up getting in the car. He got in his car. I followed him to come get my things because he was so adamant about my stuff getting out of the house. I was like, okay, cool, not a problem. Let me get my stuff so I can go because I already had somewhere to go. I already knew. He didn't know where. It didn't matter if he knew where. I just knew where. And I knew that, I had held up the end of the bargain, which we had discussed, that I had by Friday, and which God paved the way. He set up the opportunity, and so I just took it and ran with it, right? So he opened up the door. And so when I got there, all hell just really broke loose. Like, because I was leaving and I officially had somewhere to go, and it wasn't to my family's house, and he didn't know where I was going, and I wasn't really answering the phone that day because I really didn't have any words but to really get my stuff. We didn't really have anything further to discuss, and it turned into a whole situation where the police got involved because he got aggressive and he decided he wanted to put his hands on me because he did not know how to handle the fact that he just asked me to go, and he told me that he did not want to work this out anymore. And now I find myself in a situation where I'm pinned down in your room on the bed because I'm not begging you for a place to stay, or I'm not begging you for whatever it is that you're asking for, or I'm doing something without you. And so at that moment in time, I just was like, are you really going to do this in front of my children? Are you really going to put us in this situation? Our daughter is sitting in the other room, and this is where we are today. And so I just was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. That's really fine. And so, and in that moment, I just was like, God, I can recall my son, the police coming, and from the police coming, I can recall, my son coming down in the car, and he talked to me, and he said, deliver us from evil. And I just was like, God, I say, you are an amazing God. The enemy has a way and a plan, and not to speak bad on the individual, but he has certain things and tactics that he uses. And for those people who are not sure whether they want to serve God or not serve God, what happens is he's able to use them as a vehicle to be what it is that the enemy wants to be for that moment in time, to throw you off guard, to throw you off track, to throw you, at a place where you feel like giving up, or where you feel like you're out there by yourself. And so God stepped right in the nick of time, and I'm so grateful for that, you guys. And which leads me to show you guys this now. Y'all don't laugh because I look crazy, y'all. I look super crazy, but this here, this is me, y'all. This is me, August 2016. I was a resident at Sarah's Hope, Danielle Mitchell. No. It expired at August 6, 2016. But I had came there 2015. And it was St. Vincent de Paul. And you guys, when I looked, I was cleaning up, and when I was cleaning up, I found this. And God will show you. He will show you your growth. He will show you how far you've come. He will show you how strong you are. He will show you how the will of being able to persevere is so apparent and paramount in your life. When you are in things, you don't know that you're going to be able to overcome. You don't know those things until you go through it. And I'm just like, God, I didn't think that I was going to get through it. I did not think that I would be at a place where I would be at peace, and that I would even have somewhere to go, or even that I would be getting put out after having an infant child. But that was my story. And I didn't share that with many people for a long time. People knew that I went into the shelter from sharing. But my story, and in that moment, even when, the cops were called, they asked me, did I want to press charges, and did I want to go something for domestic violence? Did I want to do something that night? And I let them know that I had somewhere to go. And because of my heart being the way that it is, and I just couldn't do it, and I knew that was my daughter's father, and I said I can't do that. I said I'm good, but I did write a statement, because it was real, and it was real for me. And oftentimes we let people ride, you know, on things and off of things that they shouldn't even be riding off of. And people, they what they do is they'll appear to be one way and really be something else the whole time. And be careful and be so aware of the person who, or of people who nobody has anything bad to say about them. Be careful about those people, because behind closed doors and underneath the veil of it all, it could be some things that are happening on so many levels that people don't have no clue about. And I just wanted to share this story with you guys, and I'm so sorry for it being such a long video. But I do want to encourage you guys to embrace your story. Look at how far you've come, because we've come so far. The person that you are today will not be the person that you will be 5 years from now, a decade from now, and so forth and so on. But I want you to stay in tune and stay inclined to the voice of God and allow Him to lead you on a constant. Because in that you will find your greatest treasures, and in that you will be able to crown up at your finest. You guys, I love you guys so much. This is your girl, Danny Royal from DannyRoyal.com. If you like this video, give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for future videos to come. And not only do I want you to subscribe, but I want you to hit that notification bell. And I also want you to be aware of all of my upcoming videos. So I'm excited to have you as a member, a fan, a friend, a family member, a part of this royal family that I have created, Crown Up Nation. And thank you so much for tuning into my story. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.